To play or not to play? That is the question. Whether 'tis nobler to the game to suffer the slings and arrows of concussion uncles, or to take up arms against a sea of maras, and by opposing end them, to fly, to rest no more. It's all coming up next on the PHLY Eagles podcast. Let's go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the PHLY Eagles podcast on a Monday afternoon, a very serious show. Bo Wulf, Zach Berman, we got a lot to talk about, and it's all presented by the good folks at Bet365. Download the Bet365 app and use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Zach, we got a lot to talk about. Are the Eagles going to play their starters? Are they going to go for the record next Sunday against the New York Giants? Does it matter? Should they do it? Should Jalen Hurts play? Is there anything that concerns you about this Eagles team heading into the playoffs? Who are they going to play? And at the end of the show, we're going to break down the most important footage, I believe, from last night's game. Zach, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Excited for the show. Excited for the week ahead. Excited to see what happens here.
Okay. Let's set it up here. The Eagles are locked in to the 2 seed. If the season ended today, they would be playing the Green Bay Packers here at the link. It can flip if and only if the Commanders lose and the Packers win in Week 18. In that case, it would be the Commanders coming here. But right now, it looks like it's going to be Eagles-Packers, a bit of a nice full circle moment from the season that began with some mall sushi in Sao Paulo.
Yeah, so I think that would be a tough draw for the Eagles. I mean, I don't think yesterday afternoon and evening was a favorable outcome for the Eagles. I would rather play Washington than Green Bay. Now, that said, and I've used this comparison today on Anthony's show and on the All-NFL show, it's similar to Oregon fans who might be griping about them getting Ohio State as opposed to getting Boise State or Arizona State. My view is if you're in the postseason, if you expect to win championships, you have to beat good teams. You don't ask for a lighter burden, you ask for broader shoulders, right? So I view this as it is a tough draw. I think Green Bay is like a Super Bowl caliber team in the NFC. That's a tough 7 seed. I think Washington is the easier matchup for the Eagles. But if you're going to win, you got to beat good teams.
Yeah, I don't really yeah, it's a tough matchup, but so what? You're the 2 seed. You get to play at home. It's not that, it's not a crazy thing. And I think you could even argue that potentially a Commanders team that is able to get under the Eagles' skin a little bit and maybe get them off their game could be just as dangerous a matchup. And obviously the variable of Jaden Daniels as a runner. I think the Packers are a very good team. But the Eagles should be better, and if the Eagles are who they think they are, then they should have no trouble beating the Packers at home.
That's a valid point. I have this image or this footage seared in my head. I'm sitting in my Tampa hotel room. It's the day before the Eagles-Bucks game last year, and I'm sitting there watching the Cowboys, the Cowboys-Packers game. And the Cowboys, correct me if I'm wrong, they were the 2 seed, right? The Packers were the 7 seed, and the Packers decimated them.
Yeah.
Decimated. Like Jordan Love was outstanding. Going on the road didn't hurt them.
I think Matt LaFleur can put together a really good game plan.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's a team that playing in the cold isn't, and I don't know what the weather's going to be 2 Sundays from now, but playing in the cold
or Saturday.
or Saturday is not something that would trip them up. I think that's a good quarterback who's been in the playoffs before. Like you said, LaFleur can put together a good game plan. Yeah, I see your point. You're the 2 seed. You have home field advantage, but that is on the scale of like some of the 7 seeds that I've seen in recent years, that's a tougher 7 seed. Yeah. That's not like the Bears sneaking in that year with Matt Nagy when they were like a 7-8 win team.
It's a very good 7 seed, but it's still, at best or at worst, the 4th best team in the conference. And if you can't beat them as a 2 seed at home, then what are we even doing here?
Also, not to get ahead of ourselves, but the path to the Super Bowl would then be if all the favorites win, would be the NFC North.
Yes, that is possible.
Would be the Packers, the Vikings, or the Lions, and the Vikings or the Lions.
Right. Yeah. So you would be rooting for the 6 seed to pull off the upset against the 3 seed.
Exactly.
So you'd be rooting for the Commanders to beat the Rams, essentially, if that is that matchup. But yeah, and I mean, listen, the Eagles have already beaten a few other divisions entirely this season, so maybe they just got to run through the NFC North,
which is the best division in football this year.
There you go. All right. So with all that in mind, I think the big question that starts, the dominoes of what the Eagles are going to do this week is, how do you feel about what the Eagles should do with Jalen Hurts?
Yeah, it's a good question because I can see this both ways, and I keep bringing up 2022. And to refresh the memory of our viewers and listeners, Jalen Hurts missed Week 16, Week 17. He needed to play Week 18, or the Eagles needed to win Week 18 to clinch the number 1 seed.
Right. He didn't need to play for his own good. He needed to play because they needed the win.
Exactly. But he played well enough. It was like he did just enough. But I do remember speaking to Jalen and speaking to others in the organization who thought it was especially beneficial for him to have that game going into the postseason. That said, that year they had that opening, they had the first round bye, so he still had the rest. But the answer was it was not as if the last time he played was when he got injured. So
also a much different injury.
This is a much and so that's the other thing. In that case, you want to see how does he recover from shoulder, collarbone type injury. This case, a concussion. I'm not a doctor, but if once you're cleared, you should be able to resume your physical abilities.
But I also think that there's evidence that time helps.
Sure.
So, to me, I know that Jalen Hurts might want to play a little bit in this game, but if we're wrapping into the should they go for the record conversation. And last night on the postgame show, I was willing to be talked into a little bit.
Yeah, I was surprised.
If the players really, really, really want to go for it, I could sort of understand that. But that was in the drunken haze of the postgame. Now that I have sobered up the next day, it would just be crazy because I don't view this. It's not a risk aversion like we can't play them because what if they get hurt? It's opportunistic. Get the chance to give this team rest. They haven't had a bye since Week 5. They need that rest. You're not going to get it, obviously, with the bye. And you just think about A.J. Brown, who has been added to the injury report with a knee injury each of the past 2 weeks and is obviously dealing with something. Lane Johnson, who is always injured and is dealing the entire offensive line. If you go for it, that's everybody on offense who has to play. And yes, you are, exposing them to potential injury. To me, it's more about go get them the rest so that you can come out, all systems go in the playoffs.
So I'm just going to put this out here. I might be getting ahead of the pace of the conversation. I'm just going to give my view on this right now.
Okay.
Personally, I want Saquon to play. From a narrative perspective, how cool would that be to set the record against his former team, a record that has stood the test of time for 40 years. What that means for the player, what that means for his legacy, what that means for the history of the game. I think that'd be awesome to see it, to chronicle it. I think that'd be awesome for Saquon. I think that'd be awesome for the team. I'm a bit of a romantic about this. Sports
romantic.
Sports is about moments.
That was my Kellen Moore impression.
Oh, okay.
I asked him a question last week using the word romantic, which he scoffed at as if I was implying that he wanted to get together with Kenny Pickett.
No, like sports are about moments. I think that'd be an awesome moment, and I think that when you think of Eric Dickerson's name, you think of that record. Now, what do I anticipate? I don't think Saquon's going to play. I think they're going to sit the key starters. You can't sit every starter. I think they're going to sit the key starters. For full disclosure here, Nick Sirianni, who was scheduled to speak at 3:15, that got moved up to 2:30. That'll be during the show. We won't be on that call because we're doing the show. If anything comes out, we will give an update as it comes. Nick, I imagine, is going to keep kind of kicking this down the line. We're still considering it. To the point that you said about the players, and look, after the game, some of the clips that were kind of discussed on the post-game show, the stuff that was put out from the locker room right away was players saying they wanted to go for it. I don't think that's a universal feeling.
No.
I think
even A.J. Brown, who said in the locker room like he might he would like to go for it. He also told Garofalo on the field he needs rest.
A.J. Brown personally wants rest. I think A.J. wants Saquon to play and him not to play. Lane Johnson was quite adamant. It's better to be safe than sorry here. They got 2,000 yards. I think there are especially veterans in that locker room who want the rest. Lane's 34 years old, as he says. He can use that rest. So that's where I think the Eagles are going to lean. I don't think it's as much. It's interesting. I don't know the answer to it. I'm speculating here. I don't think it's as much the risk of injury as it is like giving these guys a chance to take a breath, reset, and
that's what I said.
Yeah. So that's I'm saying that too. I don't think it's like because I hear this argument. Well,
he's been injured walking across the street.
Exactly. Yeah. I think it's like you said, they haven't had their bye since week 5. I know they had the Thursday game that offered the mini bye, and it's not just a chance to rest. It's a chance for some of the core starters to get ahead on the game plan for the following week, which would be happening. Like you said, they would know their potential opponents, and they could start to kind of watch film and do work on those guys.
I have a slight disagreement with you on like what the moment would be like, because to me, like if we're talking about the romanticism of like what are the moments you remember, the moments are things that are unexpected, and so this thing that it's so perfectly set up, we can all imagine like if Saquon Barkley played in this game, he would break the record. He would do it against the Giants. It's sort of like that already exists. You know what I mean? It's not like out of nowhere he's running for 300 yards against the Giants and what an FU this is. It's like it's sort of a fait accompli if he does it, and it's not as exciting to me.
Do you remember when Barry Bonds set the home run record?
But that's a little bit different. Like is he going to do it, or like I don't know.
I mean, it's look. Nothing is a fait accompli. He still has to get 101 yards.
I think we all know that if he played in this game, he would get 101 yards against the Giants.
So I can keep going on down the list.
I think you should write the story ahead of time as if it happened.
No, you can't do that.
A nice fictional, nice fanfic. I think that'd be fun to read.
I'm a nonfiction writer and a nonfiction reader. What?
Okay.
I that wasn't intended to be a humorous line. That was like when Caitlin Collins was on one of the shows and she she said something about her network being a place of truth, and it got a laugh, and she's like, was that meant to have a laugh track? No, that line wasn't meant to incite laughter. I totally disagree with you. I think that would be a great moment. I can keep going on. Do you remember when Mark McGwire hit 62?
Yeah, I think that's different.
Why?
Because it's still
at that point you knew he was going to hit a home run at some point.
Yeah, you want to see it, but like
he finished that year with what, 66, right?
Right, but it's the 62. That's the exciting one.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So you don't remember players who got to 59.
I think this to me is less about the moment and more about getting to like everybody gets to have this banner to bring around with them for the rest of their careers. That like they got this record.
Well, it's both. It's achieving it. It's actually doing it. It's the culmination of this entire year. And like I said, you might not remember the postseason appearances of Mark McGwire, but you darn sure remember when he hit 62. You can go on down the list of different moments in sports, of different records that were broken, and the rushing record, I think, is a pretty big deal. So, yeah, I think that's a cool thing, personally.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a little bit soured on it.
I can tell.
The players really
tell.
want it, like that's a little bit different. But I don't know. I mean, it is a 17th game. That does matter.
I don't buy that. I mean, O.J. Simpson did it in 14. So then was Eric Dickerson's record watered down? Like, you're still breaking the record. You're still, you're basically, it's like putting the asterisk next to Roger Maris's 61, right? Because it wasn't done in what, 144 games? Or was it 150? Yeah. So,
maybe,
whatever it was. Like, it's like Saquon said after the game yesterday. Teams also ran the running game was different then than it is now. So these are the terms of engagement. These are the conditions at hand. If he goes in the record books as the all-time single season rushing record, I think that's awesome. If I was there to chronicle it, I think that's awesome. If the fact that he's doing it against the team that let him go, it was very public that they let him go, I think that's awesome. So, yeah, I mean, guilty as charged in terms of the romanticism there. I don't think it occurs.
Yeah, I think it probably will not as well. Let's check out the super chats and see what the people think. K-Red says, ZB favorite Bo, Wulf or Brack?
I respect both. I would have to go Bo Wulf. I'm on the show with Bo every day. Bo and I came to this job. We've worked together for 5 years. So,
all right, somebody tag Bo Brack with that. See what he responds. Rohit.
But Bo Brack does a good job out in Arizona.
I think he does a great job.
Yeah. Bo Brack does a great job out in Arizona. So check that out. That's our PHNX Cardinals show.
There you go. Rohit says, what do you think the Eagles-Packers line would be heading into the game?
We got to ask Jamie this, right? Jamie's our
I would think Eagles 4. Eagles by 4.
Eagles by 4. Okay. Yeah, I would say I'm going to do a little Price is Right on you, and I'm going to do Eagles 4.5.
Okay. That's fine.
Yeah.
Jason says, Zach, you're not alone in kissing the ring. Khalif admitted he also loves Tom Brady. He said he's as good of an announcer as he was a quarterback.
So that's a joke about him as an announcer, I imagine. I was actually thinking about this the other day. What's that?
I think it's probably more of an inside joke between him and Khalif. But
when I was growing up, I did not like the best players. Like I remember I was specifically critical of LeBron James, and I couldn't stand Duke basketball and hated the Yankees, and I was very much the contrarian there. And I think that as I started doing this professionally, I had an appreciation for what made the great ones great. I had an appreciation for optimum performance, and I think that's more what it is like it's when you see someone have sustained excellence for as long as like Tom Brady did. It's not that I really respect what he's accomplished. Same thing with Peyton Manning. So that's kind of where it comes from. There is that you don't win all those rings by accident.
Chase Daniel Plainview says, did Zack Ertz's 2 touchdowns solidify Nick Sirianni as Coach of the Year?
Yeah, I mean, look, Zack Ertz had an outstanding game last night, and he continues doing it, and it's not a surprise to those who've watched or know Zack Ertz.
What do you make of Zack Ertz on the season? 61 catches for 610 yards and 6 touchdowns compared to Dallas Goedert, 38 catches for 441 yards and 2 touchdowns.
I wouldn't even look at a guy as Goddard. I would look at his all Eagles tight ends are like right around Zack Ertz's numbers. Yeah, Zach's aged well here, and Goddard now Goddard's been productive, but he's been injury prone for sure. And obviously, I would have made the same decision they did. I would have gone with the younger.
This is not like the Eagles made the wrong decision thing. It's just the vagaries of athletic decline.
Sure.
Like it looked at the time like Zack Ertz was washed. Now, to be fair, Zack Ertz had 2 seasons basically wiped out by injuries preceding this, but 3 years later, he's this productive in an offense that obviously doesn't have as many other options as there would be in the Eagles offense. But it's actually, to me, it's much more of a Dallas Goedert thing. Like, this is a conversation for when the season is over, but the Eagles are going to have a decision to make. I think it's probably, you're looking at a restructure for Dallas Goedert because he just has not been able to stay healthy.
Yeah, and to the Sirianni part of this, like, take away Ertz's spot in Eagles history, which is huge. Like, he's one of the great players of the last 30 years. Caught the game-winning touchdown in the only Super Bowl in franchise history. He's going to be in the Eagles Hall of Fame. This is also like a really productive player. Like, I don't understand why you would be talking trash to a really productive player. So,
but it's too bad that the Packers and Vikings did not cooperate for the Eagles last night, because if the Eagles still had a chance at the 1 seed, Sirianni could this week preemptively call up TJ Hawkinson via Zoom, and that would then guarantee that he would catch the game-winning touchdown pass.
Yeah. I don't know all the details there. I saw I saw Zack Ertz's comments last week, but I also I think it was a storyline that was unnecessary for Nick Sirianni and for the Eagles. I don't think he should have ever brought it on to the team or himself.
And finally, super chat wise, Shay says, for romance, if you love him, then you let him go. So maybe that's how you need to approach the Saquon Barkley moment.
That's an interesting interpretation of romance, I suppose. If you love him, let him go, right? I think if you love him, fight hard for it, right? If you care about something, invest in it. So that's my interpretation of it. Then let him go. If they don't love you back, let them go. But if you love something enough, what's that song? There's a song about Memphis. If you love someone enough, you go wherever they go. That's how we got to Memphis. It's, if you watch the season finale of Newsroom, he sings the song.
There we go.
Yeah, but that is the lyric. You're looking at me funny, but that is the lyric. If you love someone enough, Memphis, here you go. That's how I got to Memphis. Yeah. If you love someone enough, you'll follow them wherever you'll follow wherever they go. That's how I got to Memphis. I guess you didn't watch Newsroom.
We'll be back with more on the other side with the PHLY Eagles podcast. Game time this holiday season. Well, you know what they're focused on? They're focused on togetherness. Because that means when you bring people together at live events, the experience is that much better, and it's the perfect gift. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Game Time, we've been talking about them since the very beginning. And you know why? Because it's the best product in the game for several reasons. One of them, the all-in pricing. No surprise fees at the end. You toggle that feature on and you see the full totals up front so you don't get bamboozled when you go to the checkout. You get the seat views ahead of time. You get the panoramic view from your seat so you know exactly what it's going to look like when you get to the stadium or the venue, whatever it is. You get the lowest price guarantee, where if Game Time doesn't have the lowest price for those seats and you find it elsewhere, they will credit you 110% of the difference. There's also the Game Time ticket coverage, where your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem with code PHLY for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time.
And let me tell everyone about Bet365, because whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Bet365 has 90 million users worldwide, live streams 780,000 events each year. There's early payout offers across NBA, NFL, NHL, and MLB. Bet365 pioneer live in-game betting. Today, Bet365 offers the widest range of games and markets available for live in-game betting across 78 sports. I don't need to tell you, there's college football playoff, big games coming up during these next 2 days on Tuesday, Wednesday. If you're sitting around watching those games, open up your Bet365 app. And if you don't have the app, let me tell you where to go. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Use the code PHLY365 to sign up, deposit $10, and place a bet for $5 to get $150 in bonus bets. Bonus bets can be used on the spread, total, player props, futures, and more. I want to let everyone know that you can download the Bet365 app when you use code PHLY when you sign up to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. You must be 21 or older and physically located in Pennsylvania or someone. Or if you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER.
Zach, can you name the two players who have played the highest percentage of snaps on the respective sides of the ball for the Eagles this season?
The players who played the highest percentage of highest percentage,
yes.
Not the highest volume, the highest percentage. Okay, so at corner, on defense, I'm going to go with Quinyon Mitchell.
That's correct.
Okay, because he hasn't been injured. The safeties have been banged up. Slay's been banged up. And I think Bond would be close up there, but I would go Quinyon Mitchell. On offense, let's see here. So on the offensive line, Jurgens missed a little bit of time. Mailata missed a game. Lane's missed a game. Mackay missed a game, and Landon. I'm gonna go Cam Jurgens.
It's Cam Jurgens.
Yeah,
2
Cam
for 2.
Jurgens,
The man
okay.
knows his team.
Yeah.
Nicely done. That's all.
Okay. Oh, thank you. Okay.
Okay. A few of the things from yesterday's game that we didn't really get into on the post-game show that I want to get into with you about. First of all, I thought a good decision by Nick Sirianni at the end of the first half. They're at the 1 yard line, and you could have settled for a field goal after they go for the tush push and don't get it, and then there's 2 seconds left. You either go for the touchdown, and if you don't get it, you get no points, or you could take the points. I was happy that he did indeed go for that touchdown. I don't know that he was asked about that post game or not, but
he was not asked about that post game. More the post game was big picture Saquon.
Yeah, I mean the game got so lopsided in the second half that it does get lost. That like the first quarter and a half of this game was very much sort of an ugly start for the Eagles.
Yeah, and because I don't know if I didn't like some of the decisions early on. I did not like punting the ball on the
Hated
4th and 1.
Punt. 4th and 1 from the 46
on the second drive or the first drive.
I believe it was the third drive.
Okay.
Or it might have been the second.
It was one of the 3 and outs.
Drive.
It was the second drive.
Because it was they go pass on the first drive. Second drive they go run, and that's the thing. You're thinking if it's 3rd and 3 and you're going to run the ball,
exactly,
but you're not willing to then go for it on 4th and 1 at midfield, then why are you running the ball on 3rd and 3?
Exactly, and I didn't think they needed to play a field position game yesterday.
And then I was wondering because maybe there was a possibility they didn't want to tush push with Pickett because of the ribs, but then they did it later in the game, so that couldn't have been the reason.
Yeah, I was surprised by that, frankly. I thought they would hand it to Saquon. I thought that if there was any time a game, anytime that you would hand the ball to Saquon down there, it would be when you have your backup quarterback who has injured ribs. Yeah, and then Pickett's helmet comes flying off.
And he did fine.
He did fine.
He was 3 for 4 on the tush push.
Yes. And actually, the one that they said he didn't get, I thought he got.
I thought he got 2, but people said maybe his knee was down.
It actually seemed like they scored.
I hated that punt.
Yeah. It seemed like they scored on 3 consecutive plays at one point, right? The DeVonta play. But yeah, no, I hated that punt. But to the original question, I like the aggressiveness late in the game.
And then
late in the half.
Defensively, I mean, listen, they gave up 7 points. They squeezed the life out of them at the end of this game. But the way that game started, and the way that they have played the last 2 weeks, it's so different. We did talk about this on the post game show that for so much of the season, this was a down in, down out, like success rate dominant defense that was winning all the time. And they've sort of flipped that the last 2 weeks where they haven't been quite as good on a play-by-play basis, but they're forcing those turnovers. Obviously, 9 turnovers forced in the last 2 games is going to put you in good position. I'm just a little bit concerned about the defense. And this is also part of the Saquon conversation because I guess you could play some guys on offense and the rest of the guys on defense. But we've been talking for a long time about how many snaps the defensive line has had to take. they could use some time off. And I think like if you get a fresh Jalen Carter for the playoffs, that would be pretty nice.
I liked your point about the defense on the postgame show when you were talking about Quinyon, and I thought you framed it well. That maybe it's not him struggling per se; it's just that teams are more willing to throw to him after seeing some of these recent games. That could have some validity there. I agree that the way this defense has played has, I don't want to say shifted, but they're terrific to the ball, and they struggled with that early on. They weren't forcing turnovers in camp. They weren't forcing turnovers earlier this year. And then I heard what Fran was saying about the way CJ's been playing, the nose for the ball. It's one thing when there are a lot of interceptions, you can say, look, you face Cooper Rush, the ball gets thrown up there a bit. But what jumps out to me, especially during these past few weeks, is the amount of times they're stripping the ball. And like they're really it's to Nick Sirianni's point, and it's to what Vic Fangio says about the line from Jim Mora is that if you emphasize something, you should be good at it. And for the amount of times they talk about this, and they talk about these the ball security drills on offense and taking the ball away on defense, they're finally seeing the fruits of it. I just don't know if like forcing fumbles is a sticky stat.
Well, and it's also, you talk about how much they fly to the ball. You think about a potential matchup with the Packers, and you wind back to that Week 1 game when that's not what they were doing.
Yes.
There were lots of missed tackles and lots of big plays from the Packers offense because of those missed tackles and guys running open after the catch. You would think that wouldn't be the case this time.
No, I think this is a much better team or a much better defense than it was Week 1.
No doubt.
Yeah. Now that was a weird game. Bad turf. Week 1, teams don't kind of I don't want to say you throw that game out, but Eagles had new coordinators in both new coordinators on both sides. It's not like them. If they played Washington, I think both teams know each other well. I don't think that would be the case with Green Bay.
Mm-hmm. It does if you're an Eagles fan of like nightmares, though. It makes you think of that season when they opened the season with the Kelly Green against the Packers. Cobb gets concussed. Fick comes in. They have a great season. And then in the first round of the playoffs, the Packers come to the link, and for some reason they throw it to Riley Cooper. And he doesn't fight for the ball.
Yeah, I would tell Jalen Hurts, if you're in that situation late in the game, don't throw it up to Johnny Wilson. Right?
Yeah, and I think we could feel pretty confident that that's not what Jalen Hurts would do.
Yeah.
Given his normal past disparity. But yeah, there you go.
And Jake Elliott, I don't think Nick Sirianni would go to the post-game press conference and say we can all count.
Yeah, tough. But there's nightmares around a lot of different corners for this Eagles team. Zach, Tanner McKee, one half of football.
Yeah,
pretty good. If you extrapolate that over the course of a 17-game season, if he had been the quarterback of this Eagles team, these are the numbers. He would be 119 of 136. That's a 75% completion percentage for 1,836 yards, 68 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions.
Yeah, I wouldn't extrapolate that over a full season.
Why not? Who's to say?
It's a limited sample size. That said, this is what you saw back in training camp 2 years ago. And this is what you touted throughout the summer this year. And I know fans saw preseason games. But there is clear talent with Tanner McKee, and I'm not buttering you up when I say you're an astute observer of practice. I bring it up because when they drafted him, you were skeptical of the McKee pick, and then you had eyes on him in practice, and then you became a convert. No pun intended.
Yeah, I'm ready to go on my mission.
Yeah. So the Mormon missile, as Jordan Mailata called him. I was impressed, and this is what we've seen. The zip on the ball is clear. He makes good decisions. He put the two
very
touchdowns,
catchable balls.
The 2 touchdowns, he put the balls and he put the passes in really good spots. So yeah, this is. I know Vinny was like messing with me when I said on the postgame show that one of them is not going to be here next year. But
what do you actually think will happen?
I think they're going to try to trade McKee. I'm sorry, try to trade Pickett.
Mm-hmm. Flip him for something.
Yeah, flip him for something. And it's an easy rationalization. Like at the time, McKee was coming off his rookie year. You weren't ready to turn it over to him then. You feel ready to turn it over to him now. So you paid You paid a draft pick to get McKee. Oh, I'm sorry, to get Pickett, and then you flip him for a draft pick this year. I don't know what that price is going to be. I think you're going to see, I think one kind of national in vogue storyline that you're going to see this offseason is the reclamation project quarterback. I think after the year Sam Darnold's having, the way Baker Mayfield's played, say Jared Goff goes to the Super Bowl, I think there's going to be
That's interesting.
There's going to be
The
conversations.
Eagles can take advantage of this.
Maybe not
this
Pickett, but I think
yeah.
it's going to be like, is Zach Wilson interesting the teams? Is Justin Fields interesting the teams? Like I think there's going to be this thought in place that if you have a talented quarterback, and I think the natural talent for Pickett might be different than like some of these guys who are top 5 or top 10, but that sometimes infrastructure matters a lot, and that some of these players were just in bad situations. Like,
and if you think about it from that perspective, I mean, this worked out perfectly for the Eagles because they got to show that Pickett could be at least better than he looked in Pittsburgh. He played a good game, and you got like the proof of concept that McKee is probably good enough to be a backup. Maybe. I mean, that's what they should do.
Yeah, and I know that if they trade him for like a 5th, let's say, or a 6th, then it's viewed as losing value. I think they'll view it as this year was value. They got this year for him, and now they flip him for
1 year
something.
of a guy for the difference between a 4th and a 5th round pick. That's totally reasonable.
Yeah. Or maybe a 6th when you look at like what Zach Wilson was traded for. But I think Pickett. I got to think Pickett helped himself. Now the preseason film wasn't very good, but I thought he looked solid yesterday.
I thought so too.
Yeah.
And
And
the point
well.
has been made, but it's true. Like the Grand Calcaterra catch did sort of like start the ball rolling for him a little bit.
And the pass that didn't count to A.J. Brown, I think
great pass.
Great pass. Stood in the pocket, took a big hit. I think that there's I think there's going to be value for him this offseason. And I think that's what they do, and they'll have 2 years as McKee as their backup quarterback.
Which, I mean, you shouldn't make decisions based on what you thought 2 years ago. But if you think about, you drafted him in the 5th round with the hope that he could be a backup quarterback. He has overperformed your reasonable expectations every course of the way. Now is the time to let him be the cheap backup for 2 years.
Yeah. and
then eventually the starting quarterback.
I was going to say, like, look, I don't think this would ever happen. But like at the end of that McKee contract is when like the financial obligation on the Ertz deal is eventually not there. Yeah. So I don't foresee that being the case. But Tanner McKee, this is and to their credit, this is why you draft a quarterback who intrigues you in the labor, in the 6th or 7th round. And I know
sometimes it might be Clapp and Thornton.
Exactly. But if it's a guy who if you hit on it, it's outstanding value. And if the if the alternative is Dylan McMahon, who I don't say that in jest. I'm looking at their 6th round pick this year, or let's say Johnny Johnny Wilson's a very favorable outcome. What's that?
Anaya Smith's
a 5th rounder. But yeah, I think that if there's a quarterback who intrigues you and you look at certain conditions in place for that you can rationalize or justify why the college performance wasn't what it was, then I think that makes sense.
Yes, the twitching that you can see from Zach is that the Nick Sirianni press conference has started and he has to be held hostage here on this show, but that's okay. Life will go on.
You make commitments in life. I committed to 2 to 3 here. The Eagles changed the press conference right before.
Do you think they did that on purpose?
I don't think they did that on purpose. No, but it's certainly inconvenient, but this is I love doing the show with you. I love doing the PHLY Eagles show.
All right, let's take our last break and come back with some film breakdown and a few other leftovers from the game. Guess who's back, baby? Shady Rays. Let's put on our Rose. Oh, that's the Future is Bright segment. We're not doing that. We're doing regular Shady Rays read. Get ready for the season ahead with quality shades built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people, myself included. I'm always rocking my Shady Rays, and their shades have durable frames and crystal clear optics, making them the perfect choice for all outdoor adventures. They have hundreds of options to choose from, so you're bound to find the perfect pair to match your style. Plus, and this to me is huge, because the reason that I don't usually spend any money on shades, I'm usually like go to CVS and get a $15 pair, is because I'm always losing my sunglasses. Cannot possibly be trusted to keep those things around. Well, with Shady Rays, if your shades ever go missing or take an unexpected hit, don't sweat it. They have the most insane protection in all of eyewear. Every pair is backed by lost or broken replacements. And if you don't love your shades, you can exchange for a new pair or return worry-free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop. Their team has your back with personal and fast support. Exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use code PHLY for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people.
Bo, how far was Jeremy Reeves from being a camp crush? Was he in consideration?
I didn't mind a Jeremy Reeves.
Okay.
Yeah. I liked the Jeremy Reeves. He was not. I think that was a year when I had a more obvious answer, but he was.
Gotcha.
He's a good little player.
Well, he's off the market
He's
now.
a Pro Bowler.
He's off the market, though. Jeremy Reeves got engaged last night. Did you see that?
I did see that.
Yeah. And I can only hope that he got his ring at Golden Nugget Jewelers. If you saw Jeremy Reeves on Chestnut and 8th in downtown Philly, you would know that's where he was getting his ring. And if you're in the market for a ring, go where Philly gets engaged. Golden Nugget Jewelers on Chestnut and 8th in downtown Philly. I say 8th and Chestnut. And
I say chest, 8th, and nut.
Once again, I'll leave that up to you. Yes, and. Family-owned and operated business since 1987. Getting engaged, they have a wide assortment of rings and wedding bands to fit anyone's style. Receive a final cleaning and written appraisal with every engagement ring. And it's not just wedding jewelry, by the way. Maybe you're in the market for a nice Valentine's Day gift. That's coming up on February 14th. Maybe you have a big anniversary coming up. Maybe you're just a really nice husband or a really nice wife, and because you can find watches and diamond necklaces and diamond bracelets and earrings and more. You deserve an expert and the best price, and at Golden Nugget Jewelers, where Philly gets engaged. Head over to goldennuggetjewelers.com to learn more. By the way, if I can quickly add to this, Nick Sirianni says he is not there yet with the Saquon Barkley decision. The players are off today, and he wants to inform them first. So, yes, or he said still not there, according to our friend Dave Zingaro.
Yeah, I think the way that they handled it yesterday sort of tells you. They pushed to get to 2,000.
Yes.
And
I don't think they're going to play.
No. Okay. Super chat from Real Time with Prince Blue, who says the Mormon Missile sounds kind of kinky.
One thing that I'm really trying to lean into in this show, okay, is that I can play ball, but I need to be in control of what I say and what I respond to. And
what happened to yes and?
I am not going to play ball with that comment.
Unlike the people playing with the Mormon Missile.
That's a you comment. I'm staying away from that one.
Real Men Sit to Pee has a super chat who says, before the season, you said that Saquon would only be here for 2 years. Do you still anticipate that to be the case?
Great question. Yeah, you want to go first?
Sure. It's interesting. Vinny, before the show last night, was talking about like who's going to get paid first, Saquon or Zach Bond. And I don't think the Eagles
Saquon or Zach Bond?
Really? As in like he thinks they're going to redo Saquon's deal. And I don't think that they're going to do that. However, I mean, I think so much I don't think they're going to touch his contract going into next season because they paid him for the 2 full years guaranteed. I think they will see how his body is holding up at the end of next year, and I wouldn't be surprised if he stays here more than 2 years. I did not think that would be the case before the season started.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think what you could see is if this goes well. It's obviously going well. We'll see how the postseason goes, and say the start of next season strong. I think what you could see them do is guarantee that third year and ensure that because right now it's a 3-year contract with a 2-year what's really a 2-year guarantee. If they guaranteed that third year, ensure that he's there, then that could be an interesting compromise. Now, maybe Saquon will be like, hey, I want to hit the market, right? So it could be that. But this really is an ideal marriage between just an outstanding player. I think a team and a culture and a market that fits him well. I know how comfortable he is in this area. You know, he's planted roots around here. So yeah, I mean, I think the Eagles would like to keep this going. You think back to Hassan Reddick came in and had a deal that really had a 2-year structure on it, and the Eagles didn't budge.
Yeah,
you know, Hassan outplayed that deal, and the Eagles weren't going to pay him the top of the market. The flip side is A.J. Brown came in, and after 2 years, the Eagles were like, we're gonna hook you up. Now, A.J. Brown's at a different point in his career, different position, but Saquon is a special player, and I do know for sure that it's mutual admiration. Like he's better than they expected behind the scenes, in the locker room, the way he's kind of worked.
And yet I don't think that they need to be proactive about.
No, I
mean,
know.
they could.
Yeah.
I mean, they could just franchise him after.
Yeah.
Like or whatever it is, but I guess that doesn't make sense. You would just let him play on that third year of the deal. But I don't. I think the whole point of a running back is like, let's wait and see. And if you're making short-term decisions, then maybe it makes sense to pay. But I don't think they need to commit extra time. However, I think you're right that he has been a pleasant surprise to them in almost every way. Obviously.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. One thing I want to go over with you, Zach, Fran's going to be in tomorrow to go over the film and tell us the things that actually matter from this game. But we didn't talk about this on the post-game show. What I found to be the most interesting part of yesterday's game, and Julia shouted this out during the watch-along. Julia, if you could pull this up, Zach, I want you to break down this film for me because I find it absolutely fascinating. Now, for the audio listeners, what we're going to have here is going to be a shot of Howie Roseman in the booth. There you go. And look at this texting form. One finger?
Yeah.
A one-finger text with the two middle fingers bent in. We're going to get one more shot at it here. Look at here we go. A one-finger text. This is a man who must be texting nonstop all day long. Could that possibly be the inefficiency with which he's texting?
Well, as someone who holds his pen weird, I could say it's. I mean, your version of inefficient might be efficient for him. Maybe he has it down cold. I mean, how is a good texter? I'm saying that based on the James Franklin the investigation. Sure. That's what I'm going off of. No, so there's two different theories here. Okay.
You thought about this,
or three different? No,
were you aware of this?
No,
this
that's
is the first time.
I saw you videotaping something here. I also got to teach you how to screen record your.
No, because it's important for us to not have the logo.
Oh, okay, gotcha. All right, there you go. All right. Good work. No, you could edit a screen recording. You could crop that out.
I actually don't think that what I was watching on allows you to screen record.
Gotcha. So a few things. Number one, Howie turns 50 this June.
Okay.
So he's
sneaky old, you're saying?
No, maybe he's of the type rating. You know, maybe he grew up more with the type rating.
I cannot imagine that.
Okay. Number one. Number two, perhaps this was Howie's BlackBerry form. Howie was in, I never had a BlackBerry, but I know BlackBerry texters are like very loyal to their typing. Mm-hmm. Were you a BlackBerry guy?
I had a BlackBerry.
You had a BlackBerry
once upon a time, but
okay.
No.
And you're.
I did like the tactile response of the keypad, but it doesn't change the way that I type.
And the third thing is maybe he had sticky fingers, right? Maybe he was eating something, and the thumbs were, or that he was trying to kind of keep his phone from getting smeared. I got to think there was a method to Howie's madness there.
Okay, so you're going with sticky fingers.
I don't know. I mean, those are three possibilities.
It could have been injured fingers, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't think he's dealing with an injured finger. You think there's...
Well, I mean, you're throwing out sticky fingers. All of a sudden, I'm the moron for saying they could
I'm not
be
saying
injured.
you're a moron, but I'm saying maybe there's chicken wings in there, or I don't know, something like that. That he's, it could be. Are you
really celebrating the win over the Cowboys?
No, and that's a weird comment, Bo. Have you ever been eating something at your computer and so certain fingers are dirty, and so you're careful with how you cut?
Yeah,
It could be that.
Yeah, I think that's a possibility. To me, this is the mystery of the season.
Yeah.
Wait, can I tell you Chris's theory?
Sure.
Is that he was using his calculator to determine? Didn't he say that yesterday?
Oh.
To determine like how many
He
yards
could have
left
been using
for.
the calculator app.
Oh, that's
But he does use his left hand too. So I don't think that's the case. But that's just a theory that has been
that's
interesting.
great because
thrown
the
out.
left would swipe it up. Oh,
But
okay.
he is. I mean,
Chris is. That's.
I don't know. But if you're doing that, then you can just use one hand.
That's good
so
work
I
by
don't
Chris.
know.
That would make sense because if I am, let me pull up my phone here.
I think I would still. I mean, maybe
If I'm doing the calculator app, okay.
I think
Yeah, you know what?
it's
As I
interesting
come to
because
think of
it's so intentional the way that he has those two fingers bent. But it wouldn't make sense
As I'm
if we
thinking
think
about
about the eating. What you wouldn't eat with those two middle fingers. You wouldn't.
No,
eat
but as
like
I think
your-
about this, if I'm doing 2,000 minus 1947, let's say, or I'm using my index finger, right?
yeah,
So it could be that.
I think that's a good.
That Chris, that's outstanding work.
Let's take
by-
another look
by Chris.
here.
Oh yeah, that's a calculator app if I've ever seen.
I
one.
mean, but then
Oh, you know what?
he also uses his left hand
Yeah,
though.
he's doing.
So
Yeah. Here he's doing two fingers. So
and then he goes up.
the pointer on the right and the pointer on the left.
well, yeah,
yeah.
because he clicked the AC
Alright,
on
so
on
here,
the
go
calculator
forward.
to clear the
It
screen.
doesn't. Yeah, you know what? It doesn't look like he's texting.
Yeah,
That's
he's
true.
He's calculating it.
I think you're right.
Chris,
I think Chris is right.
Chris should be an investigative reporter. That is awesome.
I think
I'm pretty
he-
sure it
yeah.
was Chris that said it. It may have been Jamie, but I'm pretty sure it was
Okay.
Chris.
I think that's what's happening. I think he's doing the Saquon math, or it's like the contract math. But I think that's as good of a
That's good work.
as good of a theory as we have.
Yeah, that's good work. I like that.
All right, you got anything that else is happening from the Sirianni press conference that is making you break out into hives?
Well, I don't like not being there. I want Nick to know that I am there, and I'm not there. But I think Nick's gonna live. I
would hope so. That would be a tough codependency.
I meant like I don't think Nick's day is ruined from this, but yeah. No additional information on Jalen Hurts and whether he's out of the concussion protocol. I saw someone in the chat say that he said the reason why Braden Mann, or I'm sorry, the reason why Jake Elliott kicked was because of Turpin.
But why wouldn't they just do that all the time?
That's a very fair question. Yeah.
Okay. Can I make the kind of pessimistic turn here on Sirianni?
Sure. Let's see where you're going with this.
Is there as they enter the playoffs as the 2 seed,
Yes.
14-3 season or whatever happens in week 18? Do you foresee any scenario in which Nick Sirianni is not the head coach next year? Is there anything that could happen over the playoffs that would flip that?
Oh, sure. I mean, look, I think, as we said all along, I think that this is going to, I think the postseason is going to be the determination. So if they get embarrassed in the opening round of the playoffs, then all things are on the table. I think Nick's done an outstanding job this year. I think you really have to feel confident in the alternative. The other part of this, too, is that you could say it's not just, I guess one argument you could use if you did decide something like that is that he's entering the last year of his deal. You don't believe in having a lame duck coach. You're not ready to give
Interesting.
an extension, right? And
That's interesting.
But no, I mean, I think Nick's going to be the head coach next year, and I think Nick's earned that. But yeah, I mean, you never know what could happen if you get an opening round exit if if there's a questionable game management or something like that, everything's magnified in the postseason. Everything. I mean, and
Like, for instance, if they have the game versus Green Bay that Dallas had last year,
sure,
do you
exactly.
think that would?
I don't, because I don't know. And I said this last year. I don't think you would move on from Nick and just start a coaching search from scratch. I think you would move on from Nick if you had someone in mind. Like
I think they're going to keep Vic either way.
Yeah. So no, I mean, so my I don't think it's something that is like even in Jeffrey Lurie's frame of reference right now, or is something he's even considering. But yeah, if you have a first round exit, you have a coach who's entering the last year of his deal. Look, Nick's going to get an extension this offseason, or he's not going to be the coach. Like, he's not going to be a lame duck coach next year.
Yeah, I would honestly, I would be more worried about game management miscues than like a blowout loss.
Okay.
I think that.
So like if it's at the Atlanta game or something.
Yeah, something like that. Whereas like these things that you were supposed to work on, you have not digested those lessons. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, obviously he's in a good position. Yeah,
and he should be. But I don't want to be hypocritical. I've said all along this entire season that this is about the postseason.
Yeah.
And he's done a darn good job putting them in position. I mean, if you're the 2 seed, if they, let's say they finish 13-4, let's say they lose this game, they don't play their guys, they lose this game, or maybe they play their guys and they win and they're 14-3. It's really hard to move on from a 13-win coach or a 14-win coach. It's really hard to move on from a coach who's been to the postseason 4 years in a row, who's had 3 years of double-digit wins, who's been to the Super Bowl. Now you could say it was real hard to move on from a Super Bowl winning coach who the 1 year he doesn't make the postseason, you do it. That worked out well for him. So there's different ways you can view it. I mean, I expect Nick to be back, but this season, everything about the season's ahead of them here, right? The story has yet to be written here. This is going to be determined by what they do in the postseason.
All right, a couple super chats to check in on before we close up shop here. David, no, you know what? I have pronounced it David in the past, but he has corrected me. It is actually just pronounced David. So David says, out of Becton, Bond, Gainwell, Milton Williams, Josh Sweat, and Brandon Graham, who do you think is actually back in 2025? This is somebody who's trying to steal answers for a flu world order.
Yeah, this is an interesting question here. I think Becton and Bond would be the priorities. Well, and Milt. Becton, Bond, and Milt would be the priorities here. Now, Sweat.
I think I disagree about Becton.
Okay. Because of Steve. Yeah, so we'll get to this. Now, what's interesting is if you look at some of the early free agent lists, and again, I'm loyal to Sheil Kapadia. When Sheil's list comes out, that's the list I use, and I also really like Greg Rosenthal's list. What?
I made a list last year.
Okay, yeah. All right.
Eagles specific.
Yeah,
but,
you made an Eagles specific.
Throw me under the bus.
No, you made an Eagles specific list. Okay. But on some of these early lists I've seen, Josh Sweat's a top 10 free agent. Like Josh Sweat.
Really?
Yeah. Josh Sweat's in position to get paid, and the Eagles weren't ready to do that last year. I don't think the Eagles are going to do that this year. So I think Bond, with the way he's played, with the fit here, I can see them trying to keep Bond. Becton, you made a good point that Becton might be more willing to take a team-friendly deal. This is a situation that he's thrived in. You don't know what it will be like elsewhere with him. Milton's a homegrown player at a position they prioritize. I personally think Milton's going to make more money elsewhere than he would make here. They can prove me wrong with that.
I think that's it. I mean, we've been talking about it for 2 years.
Yeah,
that they need to extend Milton Williams. Who knows what those conversations have actually been like? What his agent is asking for? But that's the one where I think if they let him go, they're going to really regret it.
I think they'll look internally and they'll say they've developed more. They've developed Ojima, they've developed Thomas Booker, and they're going to go with their internal guys. And they'll
Jordan Davis can't get on the
field
outside of first down. Yeah. Thanks for watching on fast on TV, and check out the rest of this episode on allphly.com. Although I'm going to be honest with you, there's not a ton left, just so you know.
Brandon Graham is a player who, if the Eagles want him back, like Brandon Graham is not going to be playing for the Detroit Lions next year.
Sure, of course.
Right.
My Becton thing is, I mean, if he's willing to take a team-friendly deal, great. But first of all, you have Steen, who has 2 more years on his rookie deal, and they're going to extend Cam Jurgens here soon.
Sure.
Right? So you can't pay everybody
That's a fair
at the
point.
top of the market on the offensive line. You can't pay all 5 guys.
Yeah. Unless they think,
like Becton is a proof of concept that like you can probably turn some failed first-round tackle into a starting caliber guard here in Statler University.
But there is a world in which Jeff Stoutland says he's my future right tackle. In which case
I guess that's possible. I doubt that. I don't think that that's how they view him, but
I don't know that. But he is, if you go with Jeff Stoutland's,
planet theory, right?
And the unique traits, and he is unique. He's absolutely unique.
And then how about Bond? How do you think that one will go down?
Yeah, so Bond's gonna get paid. I mean, Bond's earned a big deal. I've written about Bond. Jory Epstein from Yahoo had a good piece on Bond last week. I think that the big variable here is the money the Eagles are paying their corners next year. As I've said, if they don't bring Slay back next season, they're gonna have their entire starting cornerback group is basically going to be on rookie deals. In that, we'll see what happens with Isaiah Rodgers. In that case, then money that you've typically allocated to corner, maybe you put more of that in the linebacker. But I think they're going to try to keep on. I do think though Bond's going to get paid.
I think so too.
Yeah,
I don't think he's going to get paid a crazy amount.
Yeah, I think Gainwell is only going to be back if there's not a market for him elsewhere.
Over Nick Sirianni's dead body. Well, you missed the press conference. Last thing from Shay, who says, ZB, have you read Codependent No More? It's nonfiction.
I have not read Codependent No More, but if you recommend it, the off season's coming up soon. I do a lot of reading in the off season, so I look forward to checking that out. I appreciate it, Shay. Shay's a smart guy, so if Shay recommends it, I'm listening.
Guy knows Bean.
Okay, next.
I don't think anyone has taken the advice of someone less than you have taken. Yes, and
yes, yeah, true. So what's ahead for the Eagles? Tomorrow we will speak to the coordinators. We'll speak to Vic Fangio. We will speak to Kellen Moore. We will speak to Michael Clay. We will be in studio with Fran. Looking forward to that. Excited to hear what Fran has to say. New Year's Eve tomorrow night. Big Penn State game.
No show on Wednesday this week.
No show on Wednesday this week. But we'll be down at NovaCare. Maybe there'll be a video update with the latest then, because I imagine Nick might have an update then as far as what they're going to do. Here Thursday, here Friday, and then we should also say if you haven't been on social since yesterday's game, the Eagles-Giants game, if you're wondering, that is locked in at 1:00 on Sunday. When do you think the Eagles playoff game would be? Saturday or Sunday?
Well, let's think about this. Monday has to be a 4-5 game, so that's not going to be the Eagles. And I would guess that the league will make that the NFC 4-5 game because Vikings-Lions is more attractive, and they're playing Sunday night, so you give those teams the benefit of an extra day. So you're thinking, Rams, Eagles. I could see that game being the Saturday night game.
Okay.
Which I would not prefer. But I think Eagles-Packers is probably the marquee game, right? So do they put the marquee game Saturday night, or do they put the marquee game Sunday night? Might be Sunday night game.
Yeah, so I would think that I would think Sunday, because if you're counting on the 4-5 game playing you're playing the following Sunday, right? So you're probably thinking about it like that. I don't know. I think the Eagles would prefer Sunday, right?
Well, of course you would want. Yeah, you want an extra day.
Yeah.
I think they might. I think they might. The league might view that as the game. Do they put the game Sunday night, or do they make it the late afternoon window?
It's a great question. Because I don't think the AFC games are as appealing.
Right.
Maybe there's a Ravens, but no, I think
Ravens Bengals, if that's how it turns out.
Yeah, but I think Packers Eagles would be more of a draw.
Yeah.
It's a good question. There's also a Sunday night game too, right?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Sunday night.
yeah. Oh, I thought you meant Saturday.
I think the marquee they
Okay.
might make Sunday night.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. All right, that'd be good. I would be.
I mean, I would rather it not be
true.
that game, but
True. Well, I'll tell you this. Sunday, 1:00. I finished 2 stories last night. I put the kids to bed. I put the kids to bed. I was able to write. Life is so much better with a Sunday 1:00 game at home.
amen.
It changes everything. So we don't get a lot of these Sunday 1:00 games.
Bad
at
news
home.
is, Zach, I don't know if you've looked at the schedule for next season.
God, yeah.
It is not going to be a lot of Sunday 1:00 games.
Seriously.
The Eagles are playing a lot of really good teams next year. It's going to be a lot of primetime games.
Yeah, so the only game that's up for debate next year is the road game against the NFC South.
Yes.
So that would be either
So will you
Tampa
be going
or
to
Atlanta.
Tampa or Atlanta.
Tampa or Atlanta. They play in Buffalo next year. They play away at the AFC East. But the one thing to keep in mind is
you get to go to SoFi again.
Yeah, although for any of these games, the Eagles could be in Europe next year, right? I mean, if there's 8 international games next year, right? Then I don't know how many are Jacksonville, but if in theory half of the league plays overseas, right? So there's 2 games in Germany, I believe, next year. And we'll see. We'll see. Maybe that Buffalo game or that Atlanta game or that Tampa game would be overseas.
There you go. All right. Let's get out of here.
Yep.
We will talk to you tomorrow at 2:00. Thanks to everybody for watching and listening. Make sure that you hit the like button and subscribe and all that good stuff. That's it. Julia, thanks for making it happen. Sickos, thanks for being here. Happy almost New Year. We'll talk to you tomorrow. And as always, we love you.
We all silly like the mayor.